Miami, the summer of 1979. Judge Edward Cowart made a ruling that had never been seen before in a major American murder trial. He allowed live television cameras inside his courtroom. Viewers expected a standard, orderly legal proceeding. Instead, they saw a media circus, driven by the massive television camera stationed right inside the gallery. At the center of it all was the defendant, Ted Bundy. He was an articulate, polished former law student who saw those cameras not as a threat, but as an opportunity. He leaned into the coverage, weaponizing the broadcast to his advantage. This live format was entirely new territory. With no established rules for how to handle national courtroom television, a legal void opened up. Bundy stepped right into it, using the national stage to control his own narrative. Before arriving in Florida, Bundy operated across several states with a very specific method. He wore fake arm slings and used crutches, appearing physically disabled to solicit help before attacking them. He also had a track record of slipping through the cracks of the justice system, having successfully escaped from custody twice while held in Colorado. When Bundy faced trial for the horrific Chi Omega and Kimberly Leach attacks, he arrived with a documented history of outrunning his own past. For the millions watching at home, it was a question of whether his charm could once again outpace the law on a national stage. Bundy quickly dismissed his court-appointed public defenders. Relying on his law school background, he insisted on representing himself for large portions of the trial. He paced the courtroom, directly cross-examined the police officers who investigated him, handled the physical evidence, and frequently flashed smiles to the press gallery. The polite, professional exterior he presented in that beige suit stood in stark contrast to the brutal, savage violence of the crimes he was actually accused of committing. Acting as his own lawyer directly extended his lifelong psychological strategy. He was projecting the same trustworthy, competent facade in the courtroom that he used to lure his victims, hiding his true nature in plain sight. To the casual viewer, he appeared completely at ease. He was turning a capital murder trial into a theatrical performance, seemingly maneuvering around the traditional legal process in real time. The prosecution recognized they couldn't rely solely on witness testimony against a man so skilled at manipulation. They pivoted to objective physical data, evidence that could not be cross-examined or charmed. They called Dr. Richard Souvarian to the stand to introduce a relatively new field called forensic odontology. This is the application of dental science to legal investigations. And in this case, it meant analyzing bite mark evidence left on one of the victims. This image shows the actual physical white dental mold taken from Bundy's mouth, resting heavily on the autopsy paperwork. Notice the distinct biological anomaly captured here. The front teeth have a highly specific, irregular misalignment, featuring jagged, uneven edges. Forensic experts mapped that specific dental irregularity. When they perfectly aligned the pattern of those jagged teeth directly with the injuries found on the victim, it created a precise, undeniable physical match. No amount of charisma could cross-examine a dental mold. Hard physical science stripped away his polished facade, demonstrating that biological evidence is immune to psychological manipulation. Presented with that objective scientific proof, the jury needed less than 7 hours to deliberate. On July 24, 1979, Ted Bundy was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to the electric chair. Delivering the sentence from the bench, Judge Cowart looked down at the defendant and famously called him a total waste of humanity. Those final words stripped away the mask of the competent defense attorney Bundy had tried to wear. Cowart's sentence confirmed that the court saw through the courtroom performance to the reality of a life spent in total opposition to the law. The 1979 broadcast turned the courtroom into a living room fixture, establishing the template for the high-profile true crime coverage that would dominate news cycles for decades. More importantly, it solidified forensic dentistry as a viable, highly visible, and undeniable scientific tool in modern legal investigations. A criminal can be articulate, charming, and endlessly manipulative, but eventually objective scientific truth will have the final word.